Tonight on KGW News, an Oregon athlete helps Team USA land another gold medal.
But first, Oregon healthcare workers react to the governor's latest mandate.
I thought that, I had the right to decide what goes in and out of my body.
What they'll have to do if they don't get a COVID vaccine.
And Vancouver comes up with a plan to help its homeless crisis.
We're looking to just kind of bring a little bit of order to what is currently a lot of disorder.
Plus, a local kayaker survives a strange accident. How they got hit by a plane. First tonight, Oregon healthcare workers will now be required to get vaccinated or face weekly COVID testing. Good evening, I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm Dan Haggerty. Governor Kate Brown announced the policy today as a way to slow the spread of the virus. While many are on board, Mike Benner found some healthcare workers upset about the mandate.
Oregon Governor Kate Brown on Wednesday announced new health and safety measures for staff in healthcare. They must undergo weekly COVID-19 testing if they can't verify they've been vaccinated.
This new safety measure is necessary to stop Delta from causing severe illness amongst our first line of defense, our doctors, nurses, medical students, and frontline healthcare workers.
This thing is spreading like wildfire.
Andy Van Pelt is the executive vice president of the Oregon Association of Hospitals and Health Systems. He is not at all surprised by the governor's announcement. In fact, he welcomes it.
The virus isn't slowing down. So as fast as we can get these programs in place, testing protocols figured out for these populations, the better.
The Oregon Nurses Association also likes the idea of weekly testing for unvaccinated healthcare workers, calling it a reasonable and sensible approach, which respects the individual choices of the workforce while also protecting public health. But as we found out, not all nurses are on board.
I'm outraged by it.
We spoke to a registered nurse of more than a decade by phone. The unvaccinated RN wanted to remain anonymous out of fear of retaliation from management at the Oregon hospital where she works. She told us she does not think she and her colleagues should be forced into weekly testing or a vaccination.
I thought that, I had the right to decide what goes in and out of my body. And I feel by them enforcing, if they just said you have to do this or get testing, if the worst of two evils is get the testing, but even the tests aren't 100% accurate.
Maybe not, but Governor Brown believes a combination of testing and vaccinations can do wonders.
Vaccination and weekly testing in healthcare settings will ensure Oregonians can safely access healthcare and healthcare workers can do their jobs.
This new weekly testing or vaccination policy goes into effect September 30th. This will give employers time to prepare for implementation and give the unvaccinated healthcare workers time to become fully vaccinated. You can find more on this topic on our website, kgw.com. Reporting in Southwest Portland, I'm Mike Benner. Now back to you.
This new rule comes as daily COVID case counts reach levels we haven't seen in 8 months. Oregon reported another 1,200 new cases just today. The state has seen cases nearly double in the past week compared to the week before. Hospitalizations have gone up 75% week over week, and this graph shows the number of patients in the hospital with confirmed cases of COVID. We're now at 422 patients, the most we've seen since early January.
Now to get you caught up on some of tonight's other headlines, and this first one is strange. I'll admit it. A kayaker was hit by a plane near Dayton this evening. The small yellow plane seen from Sky 8 here was taking off from a gravel bar in the Willamette River. That's when it hit the kayak, injuring the woman inside. And she has serious injuries. They do expect her to survive. Police say the pilot is cooperating, and this appears to be just an accident.
Firefighters rushed to put out a fire right along Interstate 84 in Troutdale tonight. This blocked part of the eastbound lanes. The fire started near the 238th exit. Flames jumped a train sitting on nearby tracks to start new spot fires. And a Motel 6 nearby was evacuated as the fire spread. It is out now, but investigators don't know yet what caused it. They do say it doesn't take much in the dry conditions right now. Washington County Sheriff's deputies just arrested a man they say sexually abused at least 2 underage victims. And now they're trying to find out if there are more victims out there. They say Darby Martin met the victims while he was working at the Dairy Queen near Manning. That's the one just off Highway 26 headed to the coast. Martin is charged with rape and sex abuse, among other counts.
New tonight, Vancouver is moving ahead with plans to create what they're calling supportive campsites for their houseless community. People who live there will have access to things like showers and trash services. As Catherine Cook reports, the city hopes it will help them get back on their feet.
Like most cities, Vancouver has a houseless community. Advocates estimate it includes anywhere from 500 to 600 people, a fraction of what bigger cities, including Portland, are seeing now. And yet, here in Vancouver, there's a sense of urgency to address it.
But I think that that's why it's badly needed now, to attempt to avoid getting into this space of point of no return with trying to get everything cleaned up.
Jamie Spinelli is the homeless response coordinator for the city of Vancouver. She's working on a pilot project called Supportive Campsites. Each fenced-in site will have room for 40 city-issued tents. They'll have bathroom and shower facilities, a place to do laundry, trash service, and an on-site operator.
So we're looking to just kind of bring a little bit of order to what is currently a lot of disorder. Just make it safer and more sanitary for everyone.
Vancouver is modeling the temporary 3-year program after other sanctioned campsites, like Denver's Safe Outdoor Space Camping. Vancouver resident Joseph Elliott likes what the city is trying to do here.
And it could really change, I think, what people think and what they associate with as far as when they think of homeless. It's not necessarily people that want to live in a dirty environment. It's a lot of people that don't have the resources to be able to make things clean.
Vancouver is starting with 3 sites this year, with the possibility of more in 2022. They haven't picked the sites yet, but are looking at city-owned property first, not including parks. They're hoping for spots near public transit and far from waterways and green spaces.
Some of the concerns that have pretty consistently come forward from the community have been environmental. The hope is that these sites are also going to help clean up those spaces a bit, reduce risk of fire out in the woods.
Spinelli doesn't think supportive campsites will solve homelessness in Vancouver, but then she thinks of the 25 people who, on average, die in these conditions every year.
It's just like, man, another one we didn't get to in time. All we can do is try.
In Vancouver, Catherine Cook, KGW News.
New police reforms are now in effect in Washington, and some law enforcement leaders have concerns about the changes. One new rule raises the bar for stopping someone with physical force. Previously, if an officer had reasonable suspicion someone had committed a crime, they could use force to detain them. Now they need probable cause, which is a higher standard and may take more time to develop. The new rules also say police must leave a scene if there's no crime or imminent threat. Legislators who support the changes hope they de-escalate situations. Vancouver's police chief is concerned it will make fighting crime more difficult and less effective.
We may have to let somebody that actually committed a crime, but we didn't have probable cause to make that detention and make the arrest. They may simply get away.
The new rules also ban chokeholds, ban the use of military equipment, and limit the use of tear gas.
Portland Commissioner Joanne Hardesty says she plans to sue the city. She's accused police of falsely linking her to a hit-and-run investigation that happened earlier this year. Commissioner Hardesty was not involved in that hit-and-run, and her name was cleared within a day. The woman whose car was hit told police that Hardesty was responsible. An officer put out information about that to the media and to other media outlets before an investigation showed that she wasn't involved. Hardesty says that city police and state law were violated here. She believes the leak was tied to race and her stance on issues with Portland police. The mayor's office says Commissioner Hardesty deserves clear and thorough answers about what happened, and she has every right to pursue litigation.
There's a new service in the Portland area to help people clear their juvenile records. Those records can keep people from getting a job years after the incident. Records show up to employers even if a person only had contact with police but never went to court. The Expunction Clinic is a free online service just started by the law firm Youth Rights and Justice.
kids who have moved beyond their childhood mistakes and are ready to enter adulthood as successful, productive members of our society should be able to do that.
The service helps people fill out applications and find an attorney if necessary. Right now, it's available to those with records in Multnomah, Washington, and Clackamas counties.
Oregon now has a plan to speed up getting rent assistance to those who need it. As we've been reporting, the state has a major backlog of applications from people who said they couldn't pay their rent due to the pandemic. Now, the Housing and Community Services Department is hiring 63 new people to process applications. It's also working with a vendor to more than double that number. The Biden administration has given states a deadline at this point. They need to pay out 65% of their rent assistance funding by the end of September. Right now, Oregon has only paid out about 5%.